term must win games is bandied around a lot. I use it a lot. I use it a lot on this channel, to be honest. But I would say that the game we've got coming up this weekend, Nottingham Forest, is just nothing else than a win. Will it be acceptable? West Ham have to win this game. Just have to. They cannot get around it. West Ham have to win this football match. David Moyes has to win this football match. Now, this is about David Moyes. Again, this is another video. We're going to talk about the manager. We have to because of the situation we're in. It's one of those subjects it's going to keep running, you feel, even if we were to escape relegation this season. And I'm saying that realistically now. West Ham are firmly in a relegation battle. And it's not a situation as before where you kind of felt like in the back of your mind, yeah, I know, but if you get a couple of wins, you get out of it. You get a couple of wins, And even sometimes people are still saying that. I mean, the media continually keep saying this. Well, a couple of wins, it all changes. It's easy to say a couple of wins, but when you've a team that's won once in 11, that is a problem. You can't keep just saying win a few games. That's asking to fundamentally change the form that's been carrying all season. And we all know as West Ham fans, and we've talked about it enough, this isn't just this season. It was the second half of last season. So it's a year, more than a year now, we've been carrying bad form. Although I will accept, and I have said it before as well, that the form this year, calendar year, is better. I will say that. It's not all doom and gloom, but my word, I mean, I'm seriously trying to sprinkle some, sugarcoat something that really doesn't, it's not going to make much difference. This is a really bad situation. So the situation is David Moyes now is on very thin ice, and the noises that from the football club appear to be that if Nottingham Forest isn't a win, then he could well be on his way out of the club. However, I will come to this a bit more, but that X has kind of stated that's not the case. There is a bit... The club is basically still standing by the manager. That is the fact. They do not want to sack Moyes. It doesn't appear... Whatever happens, he just seems to be given the backing of the club. We were all saying before the World Cup, this is the time to replace the manager. This is the time. Things are really bad. We need to replace the manager. I mean, let's go back to that time. I mean, we're talking... What was that? End of November? I mean, that was, a lifetime ago now. And nothing's really improving. I've said that, yeah, things have got a little bit better in the calendar year. They have improved slightly, but ultimately, we're not getting results. We're not getting what we need. We're in the bottom three. It's a really, really bad situation. The club just, for whatever reason, are not accepting the truth of the matter. They seem to be buying into Moyes' words. Moyes seems to keep changing the landscape all the time. He keeps throwing phrases out. Every time he speaks about West Ham fans, he kind of implies that we should be grateful. Originally, if you remember the start of the year, it was 2 good years. You've had 2 great seasons. Then it was 2.5 really good years. I don't know where the other half come from. The last time he spoke, he said 3.5 great years West Ham fans have had. Where is this coming from? 3.5 years, David, is not true. We had 1 good season. 1 very good season where we finished 6th. That was brilliant. The second season, the season after that, we had a very good first half of that season. We were actually challenging the top 4. It was brilliant. And then the turn of the year, when it turned into 2022, that is when the wheels started coming off that season. It started falling apart. And we finished 7th, which, I'm not moaning about that. I like 7th. Great finish. But at that time, we were, 3rd, 4th. We fell away. What papered over the cracks was the European adventure. It was the Europa League getting to the semi-final. It papered over all the cracks of what was going on. And now we're dealing with the reality. But for some reason, the club, their heads are still in Lyon. They just do not want to accept where we are. They're just not accepting it. They just don't want to believe what's happening. And I don't really know what they're basing it on. I don't know whether they're just listening to what David Moyes is saying and he's just convincing them and they're going, fine, he will turn this around. But we've been hearing this all season. We've been hearing this now for so long that they're waiting on David Moyes to turn it around. They believe in this manager. They believe that he is the man to take the club forward. I'm not saying that David Moyes can't keep this club up. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that. But what's frustrating me is you get the feeling that if this was another manager that hadn't have got to Europe, previously, they would have sacked him. They are literally hanging on to David Moyes because of that reason. And I'm finding that really difficult to swallow now. I don't understand why, because... Right, let's cast our minds back. When we played Everton at home, it was labelled El Sacchio, if you remember, yeah? And they said, whoever lost this match, that the manager would be sacked. And it was true, because we beat Everton and Frank Lampard was a couple of days later dismissed as the manager of Everton. And now Everton have now gone on to appoint Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche now he's breathed some fresh air into that club. That's what West Ham fans and everyone's crying out for here. So effectively, Everton were the better off losing. And Dave and X talked about this on the podcast, and they debated this. And Dave even said maybe it'd be best if we lost, because then we might get rid of David Moyes. I actually don't think they would have sacked David Moyes in that Everton game. I still don't believe they actually would have done, because we're seeing it still. They're still like, we don't want to get rid of him. They just don't want to get rid of him. I mean, the question is, has the manager lost the players? Has he lost the dressing room? Has he lost the club? The loss to me sometimes screams that there's been massive fallouts or issues. I don't believe there's been fallouts. I don't get that impression. I don't think there's a hatred towards the manager. I think they're just bored. I think the players are just not buying into this anymore. They don't buy into the plan. Ex-WHU employee was talking on the podcast, and he said that what's going on behind the scenes quite a lot at West Ham is that we spend so much time planning for these matches that are coming up, but all we do is focus on the opponent. We focus on how do we stop them? How do we not let them play? I've got no problem so much with planning for that. Of course you do. But apparently the planning and then how we attack is just minimal. So it's almost like, and this is what we're seeing at West Ham. David Moyes just seems to be hell-bent on desperately playing the safe. Play it safe. I just don't want to lose the game. We're not in a position anymore to be doing that. You can't go to games. Like Tottenham was that example. It was a prime example of that. He set up well. I was pleased. First half, pleased. I thought it was a good performance. We looked solid. We never really looked at any danger. Yes, Tottenham had a couple of chances, but nothing really. Richarlison had a couple of half chances. Apart from that, though, they didn't really threaten us. Okay, we didn't really threaten them, but we had a few corners, had a few chances, and it wasn't too... I just thought generally, I come to the pitch thinking, we are the ones with our tails up here. We're the ones thinking we can go and get a result here. That's what David Moyes should be pushing for his team. He should be going into that dressing room and going, right, we've got 45 minutes. We're on top. We're the better side. Let's go and try and win this. But he doesn't. He just doesn't. He's, again, just sits on his hands and waits. And then we lost the game. The game was gone because he hasn't got a plan B. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, the substitutions alone were just alarming. I mean, genuinely worrying. Like, you think, okay, what on earth are you doing? You've got a Scamacca on the bench. £35 million, Italy's #1 striker sitting on your bench. Yes, I know, I appreciate he's just come back from injury. I'm not saying he should have played 90 minutes. Put him on for the last 20 minutes. Why not? Why not? These are must-win games, Dave. We haven't got a luxury of going, don't worry about that. We've got loads of games to go. We've got 15 matches to go. So I've got a few points I want to mention. So I'm going to kind of jump onto a lot because I've just mentioned it now. The games to go. I mean, looking at the league table, if you do a predictor, I've done a little predictor before this just to see what I think that would be required. I think that you would need 37, maybe 38 points for survival this season. I think that's where it's going to go. Now, in your mind, you kind of think, okay, well, we can get 17, 18 more points. We've got 15 games to go to get 18 points. This is the team that's got 20 points from 23 games. So we've got to fundamentally be better than what we've been doing. I mean, relegation is real now. It is a real prospect. We are staring at it. The problem is as well, is because the other teams are fighting. The other teams are changing managers. People talk about Leeds. Well, Leeds are falling. Leeds are going away. They've just got a new manager in. They could well now get that bounce. Southampton just beat Chelsea. They played well. They look good. Bournemouth look organised. Bournemouth look like they're fighting. Leicester, yeah, they've got some bad results, but I can't imagine they're not going to fight. I can't imagine that, they've got quality players. They've got James Maddison. They've got Vardy. They've got some decent players on that side. I mean, yeah, you could say the same about West Ham, but don't get me wrong. I don't want this to be all doom and gloom and anti-Moyes, because things have improved recently. They have. You know, people will say, no, not that great. Yeah, it isn't that great, but you've got to start somewhere, and they have started improving. Like I've just said as well, even at Tottenham, the first half was great. The problem is with the West Ham is they're taking an unbelievably massive risk now in not changing the manager. And the fear is we've left it too late. I mean, is there any manager really that's going to be good enough that wants this job now? That's going to say, do you know what? I really think, you know, I'd want to take the West Ham job on. Who would want this job? Because it destroy your reputation. You take the job on, you could take the club down. That's a massive mark on your CV. You've gone for relegation. It's not good. It is a big worry. Yeah, and the stats, I've got just jotted down the stats as well. I mean, my word, the stats are frightening this season. I mean, you only have to look at the table to see how bad it is. I've seen a few things. I mean, but the one on Sky Sports, I don't know if you saw it, which was the attacking stats for the, you know, basically what they did was they got the last 2 years of the our previous 2 seasons of things like set pieces, crosses, headers, headed goals, all these things from the last 2 seasons combined as an average, and then compared it to this season. We were literally in the top 3 for everything. We are now in the bottom 2 for everything. That alone is enough to make, you know, the club have got to be speaking to the manager and saying to him, what the hell is going on? What is going on here? We appreciate that there's been change. We appreciate it, but this is not a blip. This isn't. I'd be moaning and concerned if we were sitting 12th now, saying to the boss, like, what's going on? We were supposed to be challenging Europe this season. But yeah, it is seriously, seriously worrying. The manager is no doubt about it. He's on massively thin ice. Ex-WHU employee now has provided an update on the situation. The situation now stands that David Moyes has to avoid a bad loss. Basically, that's what that's the kind of quotes coming out. That if he avoids a bad loss, then then he'd be okay. So if it's a bad loss, he could lose his job. Basically the club are concerned and they might well pull the trigger. I don't really get what that means. I don't understand that stance from the club. I don't really get it. We seem to be, I mean, the term sleepwalking, but we do seem to be sleepwalking towards this issue and we're not really dealing with it. The club seem to be just putting their head in the sand. They're just ignoring. David Moyes even said himself, the players aren't looking at the table. They don't look at it. To me, that's not good. I don't want that. I don't want players living in delusion. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure they are very aware of the situation, but I don't like the fact that we just seem to have this delusion at the club that we're going to be all right. This is the man to save us. What is this being based on? The fact he took us to Lyon. That just seems to be the only reason. It's really, really, really concerning. But that's where we are. But what also is where we are, and this is where I need to sort of try and flip this around a little bit, is that it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what X or Dave or anyone says on any of these channels or even fans, whatever we say, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is what the board say and what, their decisions are ultimate. David Sullivan's not going to listen. Okay. He's not going to listen. We've known that. We've known the man for long enough now to know he's not going to be pressured by things, by fans. I don't know what his view is of the whole situation, but he just seems like he wants to stand by David Moyes. So for that reason, we're going into Saturday with David Moyes as manager. And whatever you think for David Moyes, whatever your belief of him is in believing that he needs to go, we need to just park it. It needs to be parked. We need to support West Ham. We need to get the 3 points. Even though there is that feeling of, but if we lost, would it be a bad thing? Because they'll probably have to sack the manager and we get a new one in. It might be. That is a risk that's too big to take. That's how precarious our situation is. I've just said we need 18 points from 15 games. This is Nottingham Forest at home, a team that are fighting relegation with us. We have to win. I'd rather keep Moyes to the end of the season and just get as many wins as we can, get the points we can, stay up, even if it's by a whisker, and then in the summer, deal with the manager. That is the way I think we need to do it. I don't think we should ever try or, in the back of our minds, want West Ham to lose this game, because it will not be good. It will be really, really, really dire. That's where it is. But the fact is now David Moyes is going to be the manager. He will be the manager for the Nottingham Forest game. And there is some positive news. I will try and put some positive spins on this because we've got some injury returns. It looks like Paqueta could possibly be available. It looks like Zuma could possibly be available. Bowen, there was a little bit of a rumour that he might have picked up a knock. Looks like he's fit and available. Gianluca Scamacca's now available for selection. You've got a Gerd that's available. These are really good things. It feels like, and of course, Max Cornet. How could I forget that wonderful player that we've seen so much of? It looks like he's going to be very close to returning soon. So this could be one of them days that if we can beat Nottingham Forest, beat them well, it gives us that lift because we've got some big games coming up. We've got Brighton away. I mean, I know we've got a terrible record against them, but forget all that now. We could go there and get a result. We could do. And then we've got, I think it's Aston Villa at home, Southampton at home. These are big, big games. These are like cup finals now. I just want to say that for me, as frustrated as I'm with David Moyes, and this is do or die for David Moyes, it is absolutely do or die for him. We need to back him. We need to back the team because this is a must-win game. Come on, your hands.